Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and our In the Shop series. Today on the bench we've got a Fender DG11E. We did a couple of things to this guitar, replaced the jack and changed the nut, and we're going to put a new saddle in. Check out my other videos on how we did that, but today we're basically going to re-put the strings back on, do a setup, and we'll have to make some adjustments, okay, on the slot, the saddle, and the nut to see if they fit okay. We did buy one that's supposed to be spec'd out for this guitar, but there's always some adjustments to make. So let's get started.
We're styling guitars.
All right, so here we have a, this is actually a bone saddle that we've got and a bone nut. So I've put this in here. So we're going to just kind of place that here like this. The nut, I basically put a little dab of glue and put that in last night. Guitar's already been cleaned, so we're ready to put the strings on and ready to go. But we're going to have to see if we need to make some adjustments to the nut slots, higher or lower, and see if we need to make some adjustments to the saddle height. So it visually looks pretty good, but we'll see once we put the strings on. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to oil the fretboard. Okay, so I like to use the Dario. It's kind of like a lemon oil. We'll put a link in the description, but works really well. So I kind of just dab this in like this. Just make sure you get, everywhere, and I try not to get the guitar dirty with oil. It's a little pain in the ass to take off, but and I always reuse the same kind of rag here, so it's basically there's always oil on it, so I don't have to dab too much into it. Okay, now I do have a sink in my next workshop here. Very important to always wash your hands. I have oil on my hands now, and I don't want to touch anything else, especially the tuning heads, and get everything else greasy and difficult to handle. All right, so we're good to go. So basically, my standard go-to strings are, for acoustics, the Dario Phosphorus Bronze. These are the EJ16. And I like the standard light gauge is 12 to 53. We'll put a link in the description, but I really like these strings. Each end of the string has got a different color. So in this case, the low E is brass. I'll put that in there. The A is red. Our D is black. G is green. Now, as the strings get smaller, it's harder to tell them apart, and that's why the colors are really important. I mean, I've been doing this for a very long time, so I can tell very quickly, but it's not that evident. So purple is the B, and the silver is the high E. So once we got those seated in there, okay, I'm going to cut this like this. So before I put the strings on, I like to make sure that the tuners are nice and tight. You don't want to make them too tight that you can break the slot, but just tight enough that they're not going to vibrate off. Okay, and then we use a star screwdriver to tighten these ones. So you can tell, like, look how loose this one is. That's not supposed to be that loose. Okay, so we tighten that up a little bit here. Okay, so that's better. This one also. So with some older guitars, there's like a little washer, kind of like a rubber washer. I don't know if you can see that there, that, gets worn out. And once that's worn out, you can tighten this all the way and it's not going to stay tight. So they would need to be replaced. But on this guy here, it looks pretty good. So I'll take my trusty Milwaukee drill. I've got a hex string winder. Put the tension to 2, and we put it in reverse, and we're ready to go. So putting the strings on here. Okay, we want to just line up the saddle so it looks good. That's fine. Again, we leave it about a finger's length like this. Bend the top, and then we put it in. So I like to keep pressure here as I tighten. So because this is a new saddle, let's have a look at how high this is. Okay, and we can tell that it is very high. So it is almost at 3.5. I don't know if we can see that. So almost at 3.5, which is really, really, really high. So what we'll do is we'll just check quickly how flat this is. Yeah, and this is very flat. So we can see that there's almost no gaps, and the gaps I'm talking about here. So if we look down and we see that it's flat against the surface, that means that this neck is neutral. So what we're gonna do, looks like the nut is okay, but we can make some adjustments there. Okay, so we're gonna pull this back out again. Okay, take this out, and again, this is a technique that I use to pull out the pins. I take my thumb, put my thumb underneath here, and just pull that out. So once I pull that out, I don't touch any of the guitar with any metal pieces, and I'm able to take the string out fairly simple. Okay, so we were at 3.5, we need to be at 2. So what I like to do is on the guitar here, so we got to take off about 1.5 millimeters. So what I do is with a pencil, okay, just make a straight line here, and just give me a guide of how much we should take off. Let's say about that. We'll start with that. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that. Okay, right here. So that line, okay, is going to be where we're going to use my belt sander, okay, to grind this off. So I can use the pliers, or I can just kind of see here like this. Just keep going. Okay, and I try to hold the pressure steady, okay, so I can take off material as I'm holding it. Now, I could be turning the machine on, okay, but it takes off a lot of material very quickly with very little pressure. So it takes longer to do it this way, but I know that I'm not going to have any issues. So the trick is to try to keep as much even pressure on as possible. Okay, so we're almost at the line, but we also got to make sure that we're not going too much at an angle. So I flip it around, okay, and just make sure it's still flat. And I think that's pretty good. All right, so we'll give that a whirl. So we put this back in here. Okay, put the pin back in. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, now we're good. Okay, so we are now at about, let's say just over 2. Okay, but I think that is going to be pretty good. So we're going to start with this. Okay, and if we need to make some adjustments, we'll make some adjustments later. Okay, so we're going to make sure that it's centered into the saddle. Okay, that's right there. And we keep going with the rest of these. With the Milwaukee drill, you really got to control how quickly you go, because sometimes if you do it in the wrong way, you can kind of, I don't know if you see that, but break the pin, and then that's a problem. Okay, so again, I like to do at least 2 winds. Now we're going to tune her up. So let's get this like this. So I like to use the Shark Super Tight. I would say one of the best tuners on the market. I've tried so many and it works really well. All right, let's see how we get a first play out of this. So there's no buzzing, but the action is a little high. So we're gonna see what that looks like. Yeah, it's definitely, yeah, this is closer to 3. So we definitely want to bring that down a little bit. So we're gonna adjust the truss rod. So when the truss rod is on the inside, if the action is too high, means that there's a bow in the neck, we want to turn the truss rod clockwise. When the action's too low and we want to kind of raise the action, we got to go counterclockwise. So let's see if this guy works here. So I like to use a little tool here. This kind of goes over, just gives me a bit more leverage, but I know how much pressure to put. So this is, you know, for beginners, when you're looking at this, be very careful that not too much pressure on that truss rod. If it doesn't want to go, it means that's the end and you shouldn't go anymore. Okay, let's have a look there. All right, that is going to be very good. So it's actually, I think that's a little bit too low. Okay, we got no buzz on any of the frets. Okay, that looks pretty good. I like that. So let's just see if everything plugs in here and we'll do a little demo just to make sure the electronics are working. Alright guys, so that's it for today's video, and thanks for joining us here on the channel on the In the Shop series. Stay tuned for a lot more how-to videos and product demos and lots of different cool things. Until then, keep on rocking, keep on playing. Peace out from Dom at West Island Guitars. Thanks guys.